Once upon a time, there was a large and deep river in a village. The village's people built a small, narrow bridge across the river to cross it now and then. The bridge being narrow could only accommodate one person crossing it at a time. One day, a goat was crossing the bridge. At the other end of the bridge, he saw that there was another goat coming from the opposite direction. Since the bridge could only accommodate one person at a time, it was impossible for both the goats to cross it simultaneously. The goats stood in their place and waited for the other to retreat. But neither of them was willing to back down to let the other pass. The first goat then said, "I am the older goat, so you should allow me to pass first." The other goat denied and said, "I am the stronger one, so I can cross the bridge faster. You will only amble along because you are old." The first goat took offense to what the other one said and continued, "Although I am older, I am stronger than you." The second goat did not want to accept that, and both the goats soon got into a fight to prove to each other their strength. The goats locked horns and fought fiercely on the narrow bridge. In no time, they lost their balance and fell into the river. The strong currents swept the goats away, causing them to drown and disappear into the deep waters. Moral of the story: arguing and fighting is not the solution to any issue. It just makes you miss the right point and can sometimes result in dangerous situations. Once upon a time, on a quiet little farm, a mother duck sat on her nest. One by one, her eggs began to hatch. "Quack, quack," said the fluffy yellow ducklings as they came out. But one egg was much bigger than the others. When the last egg finally cracked open, out came a big gray duckling. He didn't look like the others at all. The other ducklings stared. "You're so big and weird," one said. "You're not cute like us," another whispered. "My dear, you may not be as pretty as your siblings, but you are just as special," Mama Duck said, giving the duckling lots of love. The gray duckling felt sad. He didn't understand why he looked different. Wherever he went, the other animals laughed at him. The chickens clucked, the cats sneered, and the ducks waddled away. "Go away, ugly duckling," they said. "You don't look like us," said the rabbits. "Why are you so gray?" asked the bluebirds. So the poor duckling ran off, looking for a place where he would belong. As autumn came, he found a beautiful lake shining in the sunlight. There, he saw a group of graceful white swans swimming on the water, their wings shining like silver. Enchanted by their beauty, the little duckling went closer. But he stopped. He remembered how others had treated him. He was afraid the swans would laugh at him too. To his surprise, the swans turned and smiled. "Hello there, little friend. You are welcome to join us," said the kindest swan. "But I'm not beautiful like you," the duckling said quietly. "I'm just an ugly duckling." The kind swan nodded gently. "You may think that now, but beauty is not just about looks. It's about being kind, brave, and true to yourself. Come, let us be friends." With new hope and happiness, the little duckling swam into the lake. The swans welcomed him warmly. They played games, splashed in the water, and laughed under the moon. One morning, the duckling looked into the lake and gasped. A beautiful creature stared back at him. His dull gray feathers were gone. He now had bright white feathers, a long neck, and gentle eyes. He had grown into a beautiful swan just like his new friends. From that day on, the little duckling was no longer the ugly duckling. He had become a brave and graceful swan, ready to face any challenge that came his way. Moral of the story: one should not judge others by their appearance. True beauty lies within. Once upon a time, a merchant and his donkey lived in a village. The donkey used to carry his master's load to another village to sell salt. Every day, he carried the load through a river and a forest. Walking daily, he used to get tired and often thought, "Is there any way I can avoid this task?" One day, as usual, the merchant loaded sacks of salt on the donkey's back. Then both the donkey and the merchant started walking. They crossed the forest and reached the river. While crossing the river, the donkey accidentally fell into the river. When the donkey fell, the sacks of salt also fell and dissolved in the water. The merchant got shocked and picked up the donkey, but when he picked up the sack, he saw most of the salt dissolved. The weight of the sack got lighter and became more accessible for the donkey to carry. The donkey got happy and thought of doing this again to avoid carrying too much weight. The next day, the merchant and the donkey got ready to leave for the market, and the merchant loaded the sacks. When they reached the river, the donkey fell into it again, but this time he did it on purpose, and as he expected, the salt dissolved and the weight became lighter. The donkey carried it happily. He continued doing the same trick for some more days. The merchant worried he would lose as his salt continuously dissolved in the river. He thought about why his donkey was falling into the river every day. Then he realized that the donkey was doing it on purpose. The next day again, the merchant stood with the sacks. The donkey came happily towards him, thinking of doing the trick again. But little did he know that the sacks were of sand and not salt. They started walking towards the river, and once they reached as expected, the donkey fell into the river. The sacks got all soaked with water and became heavier. The merchant picked up the donkey. The donkey thought the weight would be lighter like every other day, but when the merchant loaded the sacks of sand on the donkey's back, he realized that the weight had grown heavier. The merchant laughed and said, "What did you think? I will never realize that you were trying to avoid doing your work. I tricked you in your trick." The donkey realized his mistake and silently took the load to the market. Moral of the story: laziness and dishonesty can lead to negative consequences. One's laziness can cause a great deal of pain and loss. Once upon a time, there was a little shepherd boy who would take his flock of sheep to the hill to graze the fresh green grass nearby. The hill area was quite infamous for a wolf's menace, who used to attack the sheep grazing there. However, the villagers of the nearby area were well aware of the wolf and always ready to help anyone crying out for help. The shepherd boy's master told him about the helping nature of the villagers. One day, the shepherd boy got really bored while sitting idle on the hillside and watching his flock of sheep grazing out there. So, he came up with an idea to amuse himself. Suddenly, he cried out loudly for help. "Wolf! Wolf! The wolf is raiding my sheep!" Hearing that, the villagers came running towards the hillside and found out there was no wolf. The shepherd boy successfully fooled the villagers and laughed out loud heartily to the villagers' dismay. The villagers became really angry and told the shepherd boy not to call out for help when there was no wolf in reality. After a few days, the shepherd boy again called out for help. "Wolf! Wolf! The wolf is raiding my sheep!" And, to his amusement, the villagers again rushed to the hillside to help him drive the wolf away. But they discovered that they got fooled by the shepherd boy for the second time in a row. They generally became very upset and angry. They warned the little boy not to raise a false alarm ever again. However, the shepherd boy actually saw a wolf the very next day when he was on the hillside grazing his flock of sheep. Being alarmed and afraid, he called out for help as loudly as he could. "Wolf! Wolf!" Alas! Nobody came to his rescue as they assumed the shepherd boy was unnecessarily crying for help just to fool them like earlier. However, when the boy didn't return to the village till evening, they went up to the hillside to find him. They discovered that the little boy was weeping. Upon being asked what happened, he replied, "There really was a wolf here. The flock has scattered." I cried out, "Wolf, why didn't you come?" The villagers responded that they assumed this time he was also trying to prank them, raising a false alarm about the wolf. Hence they did not come to his aid. So, the little shepherd boy learned his lesson and promised to never lie again. Moral of the story: once a liar, always a liar. No one believes a liar even when he is telling the truth.
Good night, kids. Like and share the story to your friends. Please press the bell icon to subscribe for latest updates.